So I saw Carl Benjamin, Saga and the Cat do a clip about its war, and you only have to get a few seconds into the video to go, yeah, I know exactly where we're going, right? That is, we're on the same page. However, he showed a clip of Keir Starmer saying, if you believe this, or if you believe that, or if you believe the other, we're going to war with you. Basically speaking, what he's trying to say, this is Starmer, is any of you fuckers step a foot out of line and don't go along with our narrative, we'll come after you and destroy you. If you've worked out that multiculturalism isn't working, if you've worked out that diversity is nobody's strength, if you've worked out that the demographics that have come over haven't exactly worked out entirely, all right? If you've worked out that certain groups of people are a more threat to you than people who you'd recognise as your own kind. Now, that might not be the language you want to hear, but personally, I don't care, right? But the thing is, they know that people are waking up. So how do you best manage a nation of people who are waking up? And that doesn't matter, by the way, if you're black, white, or any other colour for that matter, or any other demographic of sexuality, whether you identify as a polyamorous fucking she, they, them, their, him, she, Elouette and violin and light bulb picking a lick and spatula has been elongated to make sure you can scrape out the back of a tar box. Whether you identify as that, it's fine. You that's you do you. But if we're one of those people that say, well, if you don't mind, you don't look much like a tar box that's come out of a quarry and not been scraped out properly, you actually look more like a first-rate wanker seeking attention. If you said that, you may well be in shit. But this is nothing new, certainly not for us lot. But as I say, because he's working out now that how do we best manage these people waking up? How do we put them back in their box? Because the last line of bullshit hasn't worked, so we'll come down harder. And this is the end of a society. This is what usually happens, all right? So you go through all the different stages, right? And then when you end up in decadence, you get the people that end up fighting with each other, and as the population revolt against the state comes down harder, so the population revolt more, so the state comes down harder, and in the long run, the people always win. It takes a while, but they always win. And the system collapses. So at the moment, they're doing what any bunch of sociopathic, completely controlled psychopaths will do, is they'll do all and any measures necessary to hold on to the powers, or the strings, the ropes of control, call it what you like, I don't know, right? They'll do anything. But they're also instructed to do anything, and there's many reasons why. Firstly, the people who are in charge of them said, if you don't sort this out, we'll end up exposing you for what you are. That's bad, because then they lose their positions of power and they end up financially broke. That they can't cope with. They've worked their whole life to be better than you and me, in their eyes. More power than you and me, more money, more privilege than you and me, right? So to be put back down with us would be literally cause for suicide. Or, worse still, the system falls apart, the people above them don't protect them, they just draw back, and then the Joe Public gets hold of them and ends up doing a Mussolini or something like that. I don't know. You could or look at, who was it over in Romania? Him and his missus, Christmas Day. They had a lovely Christmas. Well, Romanians did, but they didn't. But you get the idea. This has happened in many different places. As the system falls apart, they send out the army on them. They take away all their rights, and then the people say, well, fuck it, we've got nothing to lose now, and then they just literally overthrow the system, and then they go after anybody they see as being complicit in making their life miserable over the last set amount of years, however long, and they act their own retribution on it. Usually ends in a very, 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 very horrible mess, and the people who always thought they were above the little people are sat there absolutely stunned and confused for the last few minutes of their miserable existence, begging the people that were quite happy to have either locked away for the rest of their life, financially or emotionally destroyed, you get the idea, right? And they're asking these people to have some sort of sense of, what's about humanity, when these very people were probably never born with humanity, and if they actually had any, they eked it out of their very soul, and I use soul Yeah, they've got a soul, what am I on about? But it came out of their bodies very early on in life because it stood in the way of them and success. But all of these people that we've had before, Tony Blair, Keir Starmer, Conservative leaders, anything, right? These people were promised that you will be above prosecution. That no matter what happens, you lot will always be untouchable and invincible. Now, you sell those people out, but they're scum anyway. You don't recognise them, you don't identify them, they're not like you and me and that kind of shit. No, I'm not going there. And don't you worry. But that's all well and good, assuming that the system itself stays up and the position of power is always propped up by an army that'll do its bidding, a police force that's been politicised, well, you could see that, and people who will grasp their own because they're dumber to believe that the system which they've pinned their beliefs on will survive and will keep them in a morally more righteous state than, say, for instance, the Nazi, the far right, the this, the that. And there are some dumb fucking absolute excuses for living, people. The load that I wouldn't have even swallowed, the sort of load that if it was thrown at your shoes, the flies would have done the rest. You get the idea, right? These people, those existences, are still going because they have nothing else but this bullshit existence that they've invested their entire life upon. You know, the extreme left, or for that matter, the extreme right, okay? Because the extreme of anything is never fucking good. But somewhere in the centre, you're kind of not really standing for anything, are you? However, shut up, camera. However, I digress. I should get more to the point. These people, they get hung out to dry, usually alongside the same fuckwits that they've held up high, even when they knew that these people actually were no good, and they couldn't actually bring themselves to say, we had it wrong. But as time gets worse, and they'll try and take our freedoms away, we know all about this, and the digital ID, because that's really going to stop terrorism, isn't it? I mean, do you know what? Can you imagine? Some sort of terrorist with the bomb strapped to him, before he sets it off, goes, Jesus, right, I've got my digital ID, I can't do that. Or, thank God I didn't bring my digital ID, I can create Harry Carry. Really? That's like the same dumb fuck argument about guns, isn't it? Oh, well, if people didn't have guns, there wouldn't be this problem. No. If good people didn't have guns, bad people would do bad things a lot more. Because when you look at countries where you can't get guns, people still have guns. So that argument stands up as well as a chocolate fire guard. But anyway, common sense. The more you lot start spreading common sense, the more that common sense starts becoming more common, and at the moment it's not, the more the powers that be will go against us and bring about more vicious, draconian measures to quash any sort of, I don't know, discord, any sort of opinions that don't go along with the narrative. But it's going to fail. That's just the way it is. And what they're going to try and do, the powers that be above them, is handle the fuckwits, that'll be the Keir Starmers of this world, to do their bidding. And when it all goes Pete-tong, they want to have something else already in place to take over. And these fuckwits, Keir Starmers of this world, others like him, will get thrown under the bus, or basically thrown to us to do what you like with. And you know what happens when you get an animal thrown between a load of lions? Well, it doesn't go well. And that's, I can't see the end boding very well for any of them. And not even these controlled opposition wankers that some of you are still believing in. Just remember this, the system is rigged, okay? We've had a two-party system that gave us the illusion of democracy, and both of them they serve the same person, or the same fucking boss, or the same whatever you want to call it, which isn't you, by the way. If you actually think that these people are ever going to act in your favour, you're very much disillusioned, right? And you should know better by now. It's a bit like all of a sudden there's an act of terrorism when they want to push a digital IDs to stop terrorism, but that's just convenient, I guess. But coming away from that, no political system will be allowed to get into any sort of position where it can garner any support without it being completely controlled, because it simply won't happen. So I know that you're seeing a lot of people that you think That sounds like a good egg. That sounds like he's for us, or she's for us. No, they're not. All right? All they are is another actor or actress in this wonderful play that we keep watching and believing in. These people are no more real than the characters that you see on EastEnders or Coronation Street or whatever it is film you watch, right? They are purely recruited to play a part. And some of them play it better than others. Nigel Farage had me for a very long time until I eventually saw through him, but there's many others. And like your favourite actors, you'll have some actors which you think are incredible. They can take on any role and they can sell it. Well, same as our politicians. When all of a sudden, whoever it is that's directing it in the direction they go, saying, right, we're now changing our beliefs, we're now going along with this, and you could say you were always with it, or you could say, I have learned because of this, whatever it is, and then these people will go out and sell it, and you'll believe it. But they don't call it bread and circus for nothing. All it is something to keep you all talking and all holding on to something and believing in it, rather than coming to the conclusion that none of this is ever going to solve itself, and that the only way it will is when the people actually... Oh, I can't say that, can I? Of course I can't. It's a bit like strangely ironic that the people that you can't talk about attack the people who are more protected than the people you can't talk about that you also can't talk about, and yeah, so you better have a digital ID. Well, anyway, look, sorry I've been not doing this. Simple as this, I have been working on the local club that I'm a part of to try and get that thing going, because, as I say, immediate community is the most important thing going forward, especially if you're in a 15-minute city, right, or whatever it is, because you will have to network with each other and you won't be able to go off and see your other mates who maybe live miles away. Okay, so you need to start working with your local community, put the feelers out, build strong friendships with people, and work out who you can trust and who you can't, and well, you can work the rest out. All right, anyway, I'll see you in a bit.